I walked into the funeral home's back room and the air changed. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me like I'd just walked into a crime scene as the prime suspect. The quiet conversation stopped mid-sentence. Someone's coffee cup paused halfway to their lips. My Aunt Linda, my father's older sister, stood up so abruptly her chair scraped against the hardwood floor with a sound that made everyone wince. "After everything your sister told us," she said, her voice shaking with what I thought was grief but now recognized as pure fury, "you really have the nerve to show up here?" I stood frozen in the doorway, my hand still on the handle, my black dress suddenly feeling too tight around my chest. The funeral had ended 2 hours ago. We'd buried my father under an oak tree at Riverside Cemetery while a pastor who barely knew him read generic platitudes about eternal rest and loving families. I'd cried silently into my tissue while my sister Charlotte sobbed loudly enough for everyone within 3 rows to hear. People had patted her shoulder, offered her water, held her hand. No one had looked at me. I'd thought it was grief. Thought everyone was too wrapped up in their own pain to notice anyone else's. But now, standing in this room full of my family members, I realized it had been something else entirely. They hadn't looked at me because they'd already decided I was guilty. "I don't understand," I said, my voice coming out smaller than I intended. I cleared my throat and tried again. "What's happening?" "We're supposed to discuss the estate." Dad's lawyer said, "The estate," my Uncle Robert cut me off, standing up from his seat near the window. His face was red, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. "You want to talk about the estate? After what you did?" "What I did?" I looked around the room, searching for someone, anyone, who would tell me what was happening. My cousin Jennifer was staring at her phone like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. My Aunt Margaret, Dad's younger sister, was crying softly into a handkerchief. My Uncle Tom wouldn't meet my eyes. And there, sitting in the corner by the fireplace with her hands folded delicately in her lap and tears streaming down her porcelain cheeks, was my sister Charlotte. She looked devastated. Absolutely shattered. Her mascara was running. Her nose was red. Her shoulders were shaking with quiet sobs. She looked like someone whose world had just fallen apart. She looked like the victim. "Charlotte?" I said her name like a question, like a plea. "What's going on?" She looked up at me with those wide, wounded eyes that had been getting her out of trouble since we were kids. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Shook her head slightly like she couldn't bear to speak. Then, so softly that everyone in the room had to lean forward to hear, she said, "I didn't want it to come to this. I tried to protect you. I tried to keep this private. But they kept asking questions and I couldn't lie anymore. I couldn't protect you from the truth." The room erupted. Voices talking over each other. Someone said something about money. Someone else mentioned accounts and transfers. My Aunt Linda stepped closer to me, invading my space, her finger pointed at my chest. "You should be ashamed," she hissed, her breath hot on my face. "Your father trusted you. He trusted you and you betrayed him in the worst possible way." "Betrayed him how?" My voice rose, louder than I meant it to. Desperate. "Someone tell me what I'm supposed to have done because I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," Uncle Robert said, pulling out his phone. "Charlotte showed us everything. The bank statements. The transfers. The account in your name." "What account? What transfers?" Charlotte stood up slowly, gracefully, like every movement caused her pain. She walked toward me with small, hesitant steps, her hand reaching out like she wanted to comfort me but wasn't sure if she should. "Morgan," she said, and her voice cracked on my name. "Please. Can we not do this here? Please? Dad just died. Can't we have one day without fighting?" "We're not fighting," Aunt Linda said, but her voice was steel and ice. "We're confronting your sister with what she did." "I didn't do anything." I was shouting now. I could hear it in my own voice, the desperation and confusion and rising panic. "Someone tell me what I supposedly did." $50,000, Uncle Robert said, holding up his phone like he was presenting evidence in court. $50,000 transferred from Dad's savings account to an account in your name. While he was dying. While he was on so much medication he could barely remember his own name. You took advantage of him in his weakest moment. The floor tilted beneath my feet. I grabbed the back of a nearby chair to steady myself. That's not possible. I never touched Dad's money. I don't have an account with $50,000. I don't know what you're talking about. Charlotte made a small sound, almost like a whimper. She pressed her hand to her mouth and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Please don't lie anymore, she whispered. I found the paperwork in Dad's office. I saw your signature. I know you convinced him to give you power of attorney and then you used it to steal from him. Morgan, please. Just admit it. Maybe if you admit it, we can figure out how to fix this. I never had power of attorney. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I never signed anything. I never took any money. Stop lying. Aunt Linda's voice cracked like a whip. Your sister showed us the documents. We've all seen them. It's your signature, your name, your account number. The evidence is right there in black and white. Then the evidence is forged because I didn't do this. Oh, so now you're saying Charlotte forged documents? Uncle Robert laughed, but it was bitter and cold. Your sister who's been nothing but honest? Your sister who came to us in tears because she didn't know what to do. You're going to accuse her of framing you? I looked at Charlotte. Really looked at her. She was doing that thing she'd perfected as a child, that expression where her eyes got impossibly wide and sad, where her bottom lip trembled just enough to be noticeable, where her whole body seemed to radiate wounded innocence. It was the expression that had gotten her out of breaking Mom's favorite vase when she was 7. The expression that had convinced our parents her failing grades weren't her fault but her teachers'. The expression that had made every boyfriend she'd ever cheated on believe she was the one who'd been wronged. I'd seen that expression 1,000 times in 32 years. I'd just never seen it directed at me with this much calculated precision. What did you tell them? I asked, my voice dropping to something quiet and dangerous. Charlotte, what exactly did you tell them? The truth, she said, and a single perfect tear rolled down her cheek. I told them the truth about what happened with Dad's money. About how you had access to his accounts. About the withdrawals and transfers that happened in the last 6 months when he was too sick to know what was going on. I had passwords to his accounts because he gave them to me in case of emergency, but I never used them. That's not what the bank records show, Uncle Robert said. He started reading from his phone. March 15, $5,000 transferred from Robert Chen's savings to Morgan Chen's personal account. April 2, $7,500. April 23, $6,000. The transfers continue every few weeks, always in amounts just small enough not to trigger any automatic fraud alerts, all the way up until 2 weeks before he died. I felt like I was falling. Like the ground had opened up beneath me and I was plummeting into darkness. I don't have those deposits in my account. Check my bank statements. Check anything you want. That money isn't there. Because you already spent it, Aunt Linda said. Or moved it somewhere else. Or you're lying about which account it went into. I'm not lying about anything. Charlotte stepped closer and put her hand on my arm. I jerked away from her touch like she'd burned me. Morgan, she said softly, her voice dripping with false compassion. I know you've been stressed. I know you've been struggling financially. Maybe you convinced yourself you deserved some of Dad's money. Maybe you thought he wouldn't notice. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying you made a terrible mistake and now you need to take responsibility for it. I didn't make any mistake because I didn't do anything. Then explain the account, Uncle Robert demanded. Explain how an account in your name received $50,000 from Dad's savings if you didn't open it and didn't authorize the transfers. Someone opened it fraudulently. Someone forged my signature and my information. Who? Who would do that? I looked directly at Charlotte. She held my gaze for 3 seconds before her eyes filled with fresh tears and she turned away like I'd struck her. I can't believe you're trying to blame me, she said to the room at large, her voice breaking. I loved Dad. I would never steal from him. All I did was find the evidence and bring it to the family because I thought they deserved to know. And now Morgan's trying to make me the villain. You are the villain, I said, but even as the words left my mouth I knew how they sounded. Defensive. Desperate. Exactly how a guilty person would sound. Enough, Aunt Linda said. Morgan, the lawyer has all the documentation. He's going to present everything at the official estate reading tomorrow. We're telling you this now as a courtesy, to give you a chance to come clean before it becomes a legal matter. It should already be a legal matter, Uncle Tom spoke up for the first time. This is elder abuse. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable person. There are laws against this. We know, Charlotte said quietly. The family has been discussing whether to press charges. I've been trying to convince them not to. I know Morgan would never do something like this intentionally. I think she was confused, or scared, or maybe she just made a series of bad decisions. I don't want to see my sister go to jail. The manipulation was breathtaking. She was positioning herself as my defender while simultaneously ensuring everyone knew exactly what crimes I'd supposedly committed. I need to see these documents, I said. Right now. Show me what you're talking about. The lawyer has copies, Charlotte said. He'll present everything tomorrow at 10 a.m. I just thought the family should know first. I thought you all deserved to understand what happened before it became public record. How convenient, I said. You tell everyone I'm a thief but you don't have any actual proof to show me right now. The proof is with the lawyer, Uncle Robert said. And tomorrow you're going to have to answer for what you did. I looked around the room one more time. At these people who'd known me my entire life. Who'd watched me grow up. Who'd seen me be responsible and reliable and trustworthy for 32 years. And not one of them believed me. Not one of them was even willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, Charlotte was lying. Fine, I said. I'll see you tomorrow at the lawyer's office. And when this is all proven to be a lie, I'm going to remember which of you believed the worst about me without even asking for my side of the story. I turned and walked out before anyone could respond. I heard Charlotte call after me, her voice dripping with fake concern. Morgan, wait. Please don't leave like this. Let's talk about this. I didn't stop. I walked through the funeral home, past the room where we'd viewed my father's body just hours ago, past the memorial book people had signed, past the flowers that were already wilting. I got in my car and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, shaking so hard I couldn't turn the key. My father had died 5 days ago. 5 days. And in that time, Charlotte had somehow constructed an entire false narrative, complete with forged documents and bank records, designed to make me look like a thief and an abuser. She'd turned my entire family against me before I even knew there was a battle happening. I never thought I'd tell this story. Not because I'm ashamed of it, though shame is definitely part of the emotional cocktail I've been drinking for the last 3 years. Shame for not seeing it coming. Shame for trusting someone whose entire life had been a series of manipulations. Shame for being so blind to what was happening right in front of me. But that's not why I almost didn't tell this story. I almost didn't tell it because even now, even after everything, there's a part of me that still can't quite believe my own sister did this to me. That someone I shared a childhood with, someone who knew every vulnerable part of me, would weaponize that knowledge to destroy me. My name is Morgan Chin. I'm 35 years old now, though I was 32 when this happened. I'm a project manager for a tech company. I own my own condo. I have a master's degree and a retirement account and a reasonably successful life. None of that mattered. None of that protected me from what my sister did. This isn't just about money, though money is the weapon she used. This isn't even just about inheritance, though that's what she was after. This is about how one person, armed with the right combination of charm and ruthlessness, can completely rewrite reality. Can turn truth into lies and lies into truth. Can make an entire group of people believe something that never happened. And it's about what you do when that happens to you. When everything you thought you knew about your family, about loyalty, about love, turns out to be conditional. Breakable. Based on nothing more solid than the most recent story someone told. I drove home that night in a fog. My hands were steady on the wheel but my mind was racing, trying to piece together what had just happened. Trying to figure out when Charlotte had planned this. How long she'd been setting it up. What I'd missed. My phone started ringing before I even made it out of the funeral home parking lot. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. By the time I pulled into my own parking garage, I had 14 missed calls. 6 from various family members. 8 from Charlotte. I sat in my car and listened to the voicemails. The first one was from my cousin Jennifer. Morgan, I don't know what's going on but Aunt Linda is really upset. Maybe you should call her back. Maybe there's been some kind of misunderstanding. The second was from Uncle Tom. Morgan, this is serious. If you took money from your father, you need to come clean about it. The family is willing to work with you if you're honest, but if you keep denying it, things are going to get very ugly very fast. The third was from Charlotte. Her voice was soft, concerned, perfectly calibrated to sound like a worried sister. Morgan, where did you go? Everyone's concerned about you. I know this is hard but running away isn't going to solve anything. Please call me back. We need to talk about this. I want to help you but I can't if you won't talk to me. I deleted all the voicemails without listening to the rest. Then I went inside my condo and immediately started pulling out files. Bank statements going back 2 years. Tax returns. Any legal documents I'd ever signed. I spread them across my dining room table and started going through everything with shaking hands. I was looking for any mention of my father's accounts. Any transfers I might have forgotten about. Any possible explanation for how $50,000 could be connected to my name. There was nothing. My bank statements showed my regular salary deposits, my regular bills and expenses. No mysterious $50,000 influx. No transfers from my father's accounts. I logged into my online banking and checked every account I had. Checking, savings, the investment account I barely touched. Nothing. My total balance across all accounts was just under $35,000, money I'd saved over years of working and living carefully. I called my bank. Got the after-hours customer service line. Explained that I needed to verify if there were any accounts in my name that I didn't know about. The representative put me on hold for what felt like an hour but was probably closer to 10 minutes. When she came back, her voice was careful. Professional but wary. Ma'am, I'm showing an account opened in your name 6 months ago at our downtown branch. It's a high-yield savings account. The current balance is $47,312. My stomach dropped. That's not possible. I didn't open that account. The account was opened with your driver's license number, your social security number, and your signature on file. I'm looking at the signature card now and it matches the signature we have from your other accounts. Can you tell me exactly when it was opened? Can you tell me who opened it? It was opened on March 3rd of this year. It shows it was opened in person at our downtown branch with valid identification. What kind of identification? I can't give you those specific details over the phone, ma'am. For security reasons, you'll need to come into the branch in person with your ID to access that level of account information. Can you at least tell me if there's security footage from when the account was opened? Our security footage is retained for 90 days. After that it's deleted unless there's a specific reason to preserve it. 6 months ago. The footage would be long gone. I need to come in first thing tomorrow morning, I said. What time do you open? 8 a.m. But ma'am, if you're reporting fraud, you should file a police report first. This isn't fraud. I mean it is fraud, but not the way you think. Someone opened an account in my name without my permission. That would be identity theft. You should definitely file a police report. I thanked her and hung up. Stared at my phone for a long moment. Someone had opened a bank account in my name. Someone had forged my signature well enough to fool bank employees. Someone had been making deposits into that account for 6 months, building up $50,000 in stolen money while making it look like I was the thief. There was only one person who had both the motive and the access to do something like this. My phone rang again. Charlotte. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text came through. Please talk to me. I'm worried about you. I know you're upset, but shutting everyone out isn't going to help. I'm on your side, Morgan. I'm trying to protect you. But I can't help if you won't let me. I read that message 3 times. The false concern. The positioning of herself as my ally. The subtle implication that I needed protection because I'd done something wrong. Every word was manipulation. Every sentence was a lie. And she was so good at it that she'd convinced an entire room full of people in a single conversation. I needed help. I needed someone who would believe me, who wouldn't fall for Charlotte's performance. I called my best friend Rachel. She answered on the first ring. Hey, how was the funeral? I wanted to come, but I didn't want to intrude on family time. Rachel. My voice cracked. Something really bad is happening and I need help. What's wrong? Are you okay? No. I'm not okay. Charlotte is framing me for stealing from my dad, and I think she's been planning it for months, and I don't know what to do. There was a pause. Then Rachel's voice came back, sharp and focused. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. I told her about the funeral. About the family meeting. About the accusations and the bank account and the $50,000 I supposedly stole. Rachel listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Morgan, I'm going to say something and I need you to really hear it without getting defensive. Okay. Charlotte has been manipulating people her entire life. You know that, right? I wanted to argue. Wanted to say that was too harsh, too absolute. But I couldn't. I know she's always been dramatic. Not dramatic. Manipulative. There's a difference. Dramatic people have big emotions they can't control. Manipulative people have perfect control and use emotions as weapons. Charlotte is the second one. What are you saying? I'm saying this sounds exactly like something Charlotte would do. I'm saying she's been jealous of you for years because you have your life together and she doesn't. I'm saying your dad probably left a substantial estate and Charlotte wants all of it, so she found a way to eliminate you as competition while simultaneously making herself look like the victim. The words landed like physical blows. You think she's been planning this? Like, actually planning to frame me? I think she's been planning something. Maybe not this exact scenario, but she's been watching for an opportunity. Your dad getting sick gave her the opening she needed. I thought about the last 6 months. My father's diagnosis had come in February. Aggressive cancer. The doctors gave him 6 months to a year. The bank account had been opened in March. She started setting this up a month after he was diagnosed, I said slowly. She probably started planning it before that. But the diagnosis gave her a timeline. She knew she had to move fast. My phone buzzed with another text from Charlotte. I'm really concerned about you. Please let me know you're safe. I showed Rachel the text. She's establishing a paper trail, Rachel said immediately. Making herself look like the concerned sister so later she can point to these messages as evidence that she tried to help you. Jesus. Listen to me. You need to get ahead of this. You need evidence before that lawyer meeting tomorrow. What time does your bank open? 8. I'm meeting you there. We're going to get every piece of documentation about that fraudulent account. Then we're going to find a lawyer who specializes in this kind of thing. Then we're going to destroy Charlotte's story before she gets a chance to tell it in front of a judge. I don't even know if I can afford a lawyer. You can't afford not to have one. This isn't just about the inheritance anymore. Charlotte is accusing you of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Those are crimes, Morgan. Serious crimes. If the family presses charges, you could go to jail. The reality of what was happening hit me like a wave. This wasn't just family drama. This wasn't just about hurt feelings and broken relationships. This was about my freedom. My future. My entire life. I can't go to jail for something I didn't do. You won't. But we need to fight back hard and fast. Can you get me copies of all your bank statements? All your documentation showing you didn't receive any unusual deposits? I have everything right here. Good. Email me everything. I'm going to start looking for lawyers who handle estate fraud and identity theft. We're going to be ready for tomorrow. I spent the next 3 hours scanning documents and sending them to Rachel. She called back around 11 p.m. I found someone. His name is David Park. He specializes in estate law and fraud cases. I explained the situation and he's willing to meet with us tomorrow morning before the bank opens. Can you be at his office at 7? Yes. God, yes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard, Morgan. Even if we prove Charlotte did this, your family might not believe it. They might not want to believe it. I know. And Charlotte is good at this. She's had years of practice making people believe her version of reality. We're going to have to be better. After I hung up with Rachel, I sat at my dining room table surrounded by evidence of my innocence and realized something that made my chest tighten. Even if I proved I didn't steal the money, even if I showed everyone that Charlotte had framed me, I was still going to lose. Because my family had believed her so easily. Had turned on me so quickly. Had been willing to think the absolute worst about me based on nothing but Charlotte's word. That knowledge, that betrayal, wasn't something that could be fixed with evidence. Some damage can't be undone. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed staring at my ceiling, running through memories of Charlotte and me growing up. Looking for the signs I'd missed. The moments where I should have seen what she was capable of. We'd never been particularly close. 6 years apart in age meant we were in different stages of life through most of our childhood. By the time I was in high school, Charlotte was still in elementary school. When I went to college, she was barely a teenager. But we'd never been enemies. Never fought more than normal siblings. I'd helped her with homework sometimes. Defended her when kids at school were mean. Given her advice about boys and friends and life. I'd thought I was being a good big sister. Looking back now, I could see how Charlotte had cataloged all of it. How she'd learned what worked on me. What buttons to push. What story to tell to get me to help her or defend her or take her side. I'd taught her how to manipulate me by being manipulatable. And now she was using everything I'd ever given her against me. At 6:30 a.m., I gave up on sleep. Showered, dressed in the most professional clothes I owned. A black suit I usually saved for important presentations at work. I wanted to look competent, put together, like someone incapable of committing crimes. I met Rachel and David Park at his office at 7. David was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. Ms. Chen, he said, shaking my hand. Rachel filled me in on the basics. Your sister has accused you of financial exploitation and you believe she's framing you. I don't believe it. I know it. I didn't take any money. I didn't open any bank accounts. Someone did all of this in my name. Do you have any evidence? I pulled out my folder of documents. Bank statements, tax returns, everything showing my actual financial situation. David went through everything carefully. Then he looked up at me. This is good. It shows you didn't receive the money in your legitimate accounts. But your sister is going to argue you opened a separate account specifically to hide the theft. We need to prove you didn't open that account at all. The bank said the account was opened in person with my ID. But I didn't do it. Then someone impersonated you. Which means either they forged ID or they stole yours. Have you ever lost your driver's license or had it stolen? I thought back. No. I've had the same license for years. Where do you keep it? In my wallet. And your wallet is always with you? I started to say yes, then stopped. Thought about it. Mostly. Sometimes I leave it in my car if I'm just running into my building. Sometimes I leave it at home if I'm going somewhere I don't need it, like the gym. Has Charlotte ever been alone in your car or your apartment? The question felt like a punch. I didn't want to answer it because I knew what it meant. Yes. She stayed at my place a few times over the years. Usually when she was between apartments or having some kind of crisis. The last time was about 8 months ago. David and Rachel exchanged a look. What? I asked. 8 months ago would be right before the account was opened, Rachel said quietly. Charlotte could have taken your ID, gone to the bank, opened the account, and returned your ID before you even noticed it was missing. But the bank said my signature matched. How could Charlotte forge my signature well enough to fool a bank? She's your sister, David said. She grew up watching you sign things. She probably practiced. And bank employees aren't handwriting experts. If a signature is close enough and the person has valid ID, they usually don't question it. I felt sick. Can we prove it was Charlotte? Maybe. The bank keeps signature cards on file. We can get a handwriting analyst to compare it to known samples of both your signature and Charlotte's. We can also request any security footage, though it sounds like that might be gone. And we need to trace the money that went into the account. If it came from your father's accounts, we need to prove Charlotte had access to those accounts. She did. Dad got sick and he couldn't manage his own banking anymore. He gave both of us his passwords in case something happened and he needed help. He gave Charlotte access to his accounts while she was planning to steal from him, Rachel said. Perfect. We need to move fast, David said, checking his watch. The bank opens in 45 minutes. I suggest we go there immediately and get as much documentation as possible before your father's lawyer meeting at 10. Morgan, I'm going to represent you at that meeting. My fee is $500 an hour with a $5,000 retainer. I didn't have $5,000 just sitting around. But I also didn't have a choice. Okay. Whatever it takes. We went to the bank at 7:55 and waited outside until they unlocked the doors at 8. David did most of the talking, explaining that I was a victim of identity theft and needed full documentation of the fraudulent account. The branch manager was a middle-aged woman named Susan who looked genuinely concerned when David explained the situation. I remember when this account was opened, she said slowly. I processed it myself. My heart jumped. You did? Yes. It was a young woman, maybe late 20s, with dark hair and glasses. She had all the proper documentation. ID, social security card, proof of address. Everything seemed legitimate. Do you remember what she looked like? Susan pulled up something on her computer. We take photos now for any account opened with a cash deposit over $10,000. Let me see if, yes, here it is. She turned her computer screen toward us. The photo showed a woman sitting at a desk, looking at the camera. She was wearing large sunglasses and her hair was different, but I recognized her immediately. It was Charlotte. That's not me, I said. That's my sister. Susan leaned closer to the screen, then looked at my driver's license, then back at the screen. That's not you, she said. The hair color is similar but the face is different. She used a fake ID with my information and her photo, I said. She committed identity theft. Oh my God. Susan's hand went to her mouth. I need to call our fraud department immediately. This is serious. This is very serious. While Susan was on the phone with fraud, David requested copies of everything. The signature card. The account opening documents. The photo. The complete transaction history. The transaction history showed exactly what Uncle Robert had described. Deposits made every few weeks for 6 months, ranging from $5,000 to $7,500, always just under the $10,000 reporting threshold. But there was something else. Withdrawals. $3,000 taken out in cash over the last 2 months. Where did the withdrawals happen? I asked. David scanned the document. Different branches. One downtown. One in the suburbs. One near the university. Charlotte lives near the university, I said. She's been taking money out of the account. Why would she steal money and then frame you if she was planning to take the money herself? Rachel asked. Because she wanted both, David said. She wanted the money from this account and she wanted to eliminate Morgan as competition for the inheritance. This way she gets everything. The stolen $50,000. The entire estate. And she gets sympathy from the family because her sister betrayed their dying father. It was so calculated. So perfectly planned. And I'd had no idea any of it was happening until it was too late. Susan came back with printed copies of everything. The fraud department wants to file a police report. What you're describing is identity theft, forgery, and wire fraud. These are federal crimes. We'll file the report after the estate meeting, David said. We need this evidence for that first. We left the bank at 9:15 and went straight to my father's lawyer's office. The waiting room was already full of family members when we arrived. They all turned to stare at me. Aunt Linda. Uncle Robert. Uncle Tom. My cousins. And Charlotte, sitting in the corner looking small and fragile and wounded. She did a double take when she saw David. Morgan, she said, her voice already trembling. Who is this? Why did you bring a stranger to Dad's estate meeting? This is my lawyer, I said. David Park. He'll be representing me today. You brought a lawyer? Aunt Linda stood up, her face flushing red. To your own father's estate reading? That's disgusting. That's mercenary and cold and exactly what I'd expect from someone who stole from him. I didn't steal anything. And yes, I brought a lawyer. Given the accusations being made against me, it seemed prudent. Accusations? Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. Morgan, they're not accusations. They're facts. I showed everyone the evidence. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just admit what you did? Because I didn't do it. And I have proof. Charlotte's face went very still for just a second. It was such a brief flash of expression that I might have missed it if I hadn't been watching for it. Fear. She was afraid. The lawyer's office door opened and Mr. Harrison stepped out. He was in his 60s, distinguished, someone my father had known and trusted for over 20 years. Please, everyone come in, he said. We filed into a conference room. Large oak table. Leather chairs. Windows overlooking the city. It looked like the kind of room where important decisions were made. Where lives were changed. I sat on one side of the table with David and Rachel beside me. Charlotte sat at the opposite end, flanked by Aunt Linda and Uncle Robert like they were her bodyguards. Mr. Harrison settled into his chair and opened a file folder. First, let me express my condolences. Robert was a good man and a valued client. I prepared his will according to his wishes and we're here today to discuss the distribution of his estate. He pulled out a document. The will is dated from 3 years ago. Robert left his estate to be divided equally between his 2 daughters, Morgan and Charlotte. The estate includes his house, valued at approximately $800,000. His investment and savings accounts, totaling approximately $650,000. His life insurance policy, valued at $200,000. And various personal effects and property. Quick math. My father had been worth about $1.65 million. Split evenly, Charlotte and I would each receive roughly $825,000. That's what this was about. Almost $1 million. However, Mr. Harrison continued, I received some concerning information from Charlotte earlier this week regarding potential financial impropriety. Charlotte leaned forward, her expression carefully constructed to show reluctance and pain. Mr. Harrison, I didn't want to bring this to you. I really didn't. But I found evidence that Morgan had been taking money from Dad's accounts without his knowledge. I thought you should know before we proceeded with the estate distribution. What evidence? Mr. Harrison asked. Charlotte pulled out a folder. She'd prepared for this. Had copies ready. She slid them across the table. Bank statements showing transfers from Dad's accounts to an account in Morgan's name. $50,000 over the last 6 months. And this is a copy of the power of attorney document giving Morgan control over Dad's finances. I found it in his office. Mr. Harrison examined the documents carefully. Then he looked at me. Ms. Chen, can you explain these transfers? I can explain them, I said. They're fraudulent. I never made those transfers and I never had power of attorney. That's your signature, Charlotte said, pointing to the power of attorney document. No, it's not. It's a forgery. Morgan, please, Charlotte's voice broke. Just stop lying. Everyone can see it's your signature. David opened his briefcase and pulled out our folder. Much thicker than Charlotte's. Much more comprehensive. Mr. Harrison, my client is telling the truth. Not only did she not make those transfers, she didn't open the account that received them. Someone else opened that account using her identity. We have proof. He slid the bank documentation across the table. The signature card that didn't match my signature. The photo of Charlotte opening the account. The transaction history showing withdrawals Charlotte had made. Mr. Harrison went very still as he read through everything. Charlotte's face had gone pale. That's not me in that photo. You can barely see her face. The bank manager identified you, David said calmly. She remembers processing your account application. She remembers you presenting ID with Morgan's information. She's already filed a fraud report. This is ridiculous, Aunt Linda said. Why would Charlotte steal money and frame her own sister? For the same reason anyone commits fraud, David said. Financial gain. If Morgan is removed as a beneficiary due to supposed theft and elder abuse, Charlotte inherits the entire estate. She gets everything. That's insane, Charlotte said, but her voice was shaking now. The performance was cracking. I would never do that. Morgan is my sister. You're also the person who had access to your father's accounts, David continued. You're the person who stayed at Morgan's apartment 8 months ago and had access to her ID. You're the person who opened a fraudulent bank account and made withdrawals from it. The evidence is overwhelming. This is fake, Charlotte said, her voice rising. Morgan made all this up. She probably paid someone to create fake documents. She probably photoshopped that picture. She's trying to frame me because she got caught. The documents come directly from Bank of America, David said. They're authenticated and timestamped. Morgan couldn't fake that. Mr. Harrison set down the papers and removed his glasses. He looked tired. This is very serious, he said. Charlotte, if these allegations are true, you've committed multiple felonies. Identity theft, wire fraud, forgery. They're not true. Mr. Harrison, you've known me since I was a little girl. Do you really think I'm capable of something like this? And there it was. The appeal to emotion. The reminder of their long relationship. The positioning of herself as the innocent child. Mr. Harrison looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the evidence again. I think the evidence speaks for itself, he said quietly. Charlotte, I strongly suggest you retain legal counsel. I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong. Then you should have no problem with a police investigation, David said. Because that's what's happening next. We're filing a criminal complaint this afternoon. Charlotte stood up abruptly, knocking her chair backward. You can't do this to me. You can't just accuse me of crimes because Morgan got caught stealing. Sit down, Charlotte, Mr. Harrison said firmly. This behavior isn't helping your case. She sat, but she was shaking. Her hands were clenched into fists on the table. Aunt Linda put her hand on Charlotte's shoulder. This is absurd. Charlotte wouldn't do this. Morgan must have set her up somehow. How? David asked reasonably. How could Morgan have set up her own sister? By traveling back in time 8 months to plant a fake ID? By forcing Charlotte to go to the bank and open an account? By making Charlotte access their father's email over 200 times? 200 times? Uncle Robert looked shocked. What are you talking about? David pulled out another document. IP address logs from Robert Chen's email account showing multiple logins from Charlotte's home address over the last 8 months. She was monitoring his email. Reading his messages. She even sent fake emails to Mr. Harrison pretending to be your father. Mr. Harrison went very still. What emails? Check your inbox. From 3 weeks before Robert died. There should be an email allegedly from Robert expressing concerns about how his assets were being managed. Mr. Harrison pulled out his laptop and started typing. His expression darkened. I did receive an email like that. It's what made me start looking into the estate more carefully. I thought Robert was concerned about Morgan's involvement in his finances. Robert didn't send that email, David said. Charlotte did. She accessed his email account and sent it to build a paper trail supporting her narrative. She was setting up the frame job weeks in advance. The room was silent. Everyone was staring at Charlotte now. She was still shaking, but something in her expression had changed. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something else. Anger. You think you're so smart, she said quietly, looking at me. You think you figured it all out. But you have no idea what it's been like being your sister my whole life. Charlotte, don't, Aunt Linda said. No, I'm going to say this. Charlotte's voice was getting louder. Do you know what it's like always being compared to perfect Morgan? Morgan who got straight A's. Morgan who went to a good college. Morgan who has a career and a condo and her life together. Meanwhile I'm the screw-up. The disappointment. The one Dad had to keep bailing out because I couldn't get my act together. That's not my fault, I said. No, but you never made it easier. You never failed at anything. You never needed help. You were always so goddamn self-sufficient and it made the rest of us look pathetic in comparison. So you decided to frame me for elder abuse? That's your solution? Make me look like a criminal so you'd look better? I decided to take what I deserved. Charlotte was shouting now. Dad gave you everything. His approval, his respect, his trust. All I ever got was pity and disappointment. So yes, I took some money. So what? He owed me that much for 29 years of making me feel worthless. The confession hung in the air. Everyone was staring at her in shock. Even Aunt Linda had removed her hand from Charlotte's shoulder and was backing away slightly. Charlotte, Mr. Harrison said carefully. Are you admitting you took the money? She seemed to realize what she'd just said. Her eyes went wide. No. I mean. Morgan is twisting my words. I'm upset. I'm not thinking clearly. You just confessed to fraud and theft, David said. In front of 7 witnesses and a lawyer. Charlotte, you need to stop talking right now and get your own legal representation. I want Morgan to admit what she did. Charlotte's voice was desperate now, frantic. She made me do this. She made me feel like I had to steal because she took everything from me. I didn't take anything from you, I said. I just lived my life. You're the one who decided that wasn't fair. Charlotte lunged across the table at me. Uncle Robert grabbed her before she could reach me, holding her back while she struggled. You ruined everything, she screamed. Everything. I had a plan. I had it all figured out. And you had to go and hire a lawyer and dig everything up. You couldn't just accept it. You couldn't just let me have this one thing. Mr. Harrison stood up. This meeting is over. Charlotte, I'm calling the police. You need to leave this office immediately before you say anything else that incriminates you further. The police? Charlotte stopped struggling. You can't call the police. I'm family. We handle this in the family. You committed crimes, Mr. Harrison said. Serious crimes against your father and your sister. This isn't a family matter anymore. This is a legal matter. Charlotte looked around the room wildly. At Aunt Linda, who was staring at her in horror. At Uncle Robert, who had released her but was standing ready to grab her again if she made another move. At the cousins who were recording this on their phones. Then she looked at me. And for just a second, the mask fell away completely. What I saw underneath wasn't anger or fear or even desperation. It was hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred that had probably been there for years. I should have taken more, she said softly, just to me. I should have cleaned out every account. I should have destroyed you completely while I had the chance. But you didn't, I said. And now everyone knows what you are. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever experienced betrayal from a family member or felt like you were fighting alone against someone everyone else believed, please subscribe to Peace Stories. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support means everything and helps us continue sharing these stories. Now let me tell you what happened next. David called the police while we waited in Mr. Harrison's office. Charlotte sat in the corner, no longer crying, no longer performing. Just silent and still, like she'd run out of energy for pretense. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes. David explained the situation and provided them with all our documentation. The bank fraud. The forged power of attorney. The confession we'd all witnessed. Charlotte was arrested on the spot. They read her rights while my family watched in stunned silence. Handcuffed her. Led her out of the office. She didn't look at me as she left. Didn't say anything. Just walked between the officers with her head down like she'd already given up. Aunt Linda started crying the moment Charlotte was gone. I can't believe it, she kept saying. I can't believe she would do something like that. She showed us fake documents, Uncle Robert said. He looked dazed, like he'd just woken up from a bad dream. She seemed so genuine. How did she lie like that? Practice, I said. She's been manipulating people her whole life. We just never wanted to see it. He looked at me and I saw guilt in his expression. Morgan, I'm so sorry. We should have listened to you. We should have asked for your side before we just believed, you believed your niece, I interrupted. That's normal. That's what family does. Charlotte knew that and she used it. But we should have known better. We've known you your whole life. We should have known you'd never steal from your father. Should have, I agreed. But you didn't. And I'm going to remember that. The words were harsh but true. These people had turned on me in seconds. Had been ready to believe I was a thief and an abuser based on nothing but Charlotte's word. That wasn't something I could just forget. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. I think we should reschedule the formal estate reading for next week. Give everyone time to process what's happened here today. Will Charlotte still be a beneficiary? Aunt Linda asked. That depends on several factors, Mr. Harrison said. She's currently facing criminal charges. If she's convicted, there are legal mechanisms to remove someone from inheriting if they've committed crimes against the deceased. But that will be determined by the courts. So she might still get half of everything? I couldn't believe it. Until she's convicted, she's still legally entitled to her share of the estate. I'm sorry, Morgan. I know that's not fair, but that's how the law works. I left that office feeling hollow. Yes, I'd proven my innocence. Yes, Charlotte had been exposed and arrested. But she might still inherit hundreds of thousands of dollars. Might still profit from what she'd done. The justice system moves slowly. Rachel drove me home. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? When we got to my building, she walked me up to my apartment and made me tea I didn't drink. You did it, she said. You proved she was lying. I know. So why do you look like you lost? I thought about that. Because I did lose. I lost my sister. I lost my family's trust. I lost the illusion that family means unconditional love and loyalty. I proved Charlotte was a criminal, but I can't prove I'm the same person they knew before she made them doubt me. Their doubt is their problem, not yours. Easy to say. Harder to feel. My phone had been buzzing all afternoon. Messages from family members. Settlement. With Charlotte convicted of crimes against our father, she was legally prevented from inheriting under California's Slayer statute, which also applies to financial exploitation. The entire estate came to me. $1.65 million. I sold my father's house immediately. Couldn't keep it. Couldn't live in it. The whole place felt contaminated by what Charlotte had done there. I kept some of the money for myself. Paid off my condo. Put money in retirement accounts. Built up my emergency fund. The rest I donated. Set up a foundation in my father's name to help families dealing with elder abuse and financial exploitation. Funded legal aid for people who couldn't afford lawyers to fight back against fraud. It seemed appropriate. Taking the money Charlotte had tried to steal and using it to help people protect themselves from people like her. My relationship with the extended family never recovered. Oh, they tried. Invited me to holidays. Called to check in. Acted like everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. Every conversation had an awkwardness to it. An unspoken acknowledgement that they'd believed the worst about me so easily. Aunt Linda tried the hardest. Sent me long emails explaining how Charlotte had fooled her, how convincing the evidence had seemed, how sorry she was. I appreciated the effort. I did. But I couldn't forget sitting in that funeral home being accused of elder abuse while everyone stared at me with judgment and disgust. I couldn't forget how quickly they'd turned. How little faith they'd had. I started skipping family gatherings. Made excuses. Said I was busy with work. Eventually they stopped inviting me. It was easier that way. Less painful than sitting around a table with people who'd shown me exactly how conditional their love was. Rachel remained constant. She'd been there through everything and never once doubted me. You did the right thing, she told me about a year after the trial. You stood up for yourself and got justice. Then why does it feel so empty? Because justice doesn't heal betrayal. It just makes sure the person who hurt you faces consequences. The healing part is separate. I went to therapy. A lot of therapy. Spent months unpacking the damage Charlotte had done and the even deeper damage of my family's betrayal. Your family failed you, my therapist said. They were supposed to know you well enough to question accusations against you. They were supposed to give you the benefit of the doubt. They didn't. So how do I get past that? You grieve it. You grieve the family you thought you had. You grieve the safety you thought existed. And then you build something new. Grieving took longer than I expected. Some days I'd be fine. Other days I'd see a father with his daughters at a coffee shop and have to leave because the grief was so overwhelming. I grieved my father, who died thinking his daughters loved each other. I grieved the sister I'd thought I had, even though that sister had never really existed. I grieved the family I'd believed would always have my back. Those were real losses. Worth grieving. But slowly, carefully, I started building something new. I let go of the family members who couldn't acknowledge what they'd done. The ones who wanted me to just move on without processing the hurt. The ones who thought an apology should be enough. I kept the few who were willing to do the work. Aunt Margaret, who wrote me a real apology that acknowledged the depth of her failure and didn't ask for forgiveness. Uncle Robert, who showed up to help me move when I bought a new condo even though I hadn't invited him, just because he wanted to prove he was there for me. Those relationships were different now. More careful. More bounded. But they were real. I started dating again. Slowly. With a lot of therapy support. His name is Marcus. He's a high school history teacher. Patient. Kind. Honest almost to a fault. When we'd been dating for 3 months, I told him the whole story. Every detail. I needed to know if it would scare him away. It didn't. That must have been incredibly painful, he said. Being betrayed like that by someone who was supposed to love you. It was. It still is sometimes. Does it make it hard to trust people? Yes. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Always looking for signs that someone isn't who they claim to be. That's understandable. What do you need from me to feel safe? The question caught me off guard. No one had ever asked me that before. Consistency, I said after thinking about it. I need you to be who you say you are. No surprises. No hidden agendas. I can do that. And he has. For 2 years now. Just showed up consistently, exactly who he said he was, never asking me to trust faster than I'm ready to. We're talking about moving in together. It terrifies me. But Marcus is patient with my fear. Charlotte was released from prison 6 months ago after serving 3 years of her sentence. She got out early for good behavior. I know because Aunt Linda told me. Suggested that maybe enough time had passed, maybe I should consider reaching out, maybe Charlotte had learned her lesson. I declined politely. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. Some people don't deserve second chances. Charlotte sent me a letter about a month after her release. I almost didn't open it. Almost threw it directly in the trash. But curiosity won. The letter was 3 pages long. Handwritten. Her familiar loopy script. It started with an apology. Said she was sorry for what she'd done. Said prison had given her time to reflect on her choices. Said she understood now how wrong she'd been. For half a page, I almost believed her. Then the letter shifted. I know I made mistakes, but you have to understand that I was desperate. I'd struggled my whole life while you had everything come easily to you. I felt invisible. Worthless. Like Dad loved you more because you were successful and I was a failure. She was blaming me. Even in her apology, she was making it my fault. The letter continued. I need help getting back on my feet. I can't find a job with a felony record. I'm living in a halfway house. I'm struggling. I know you got the entire inheritance. It doesn't seem fair that you got everything while I lost everything, especially since we both know you were Dad's favorite anyway. There it was. The real purpose of the letter. She wanted money. I'm not asking for much. Just enough to help me get an apartment and get started again. We're sisters. We're all we have left. Family is supposed to help each other. I read that letter 3 times. Looking for any hint of real remorse. Any acknowledgement that she'd destroyed our relationship through her own choices. There was nothing. Just victimhood and entitlement and the expectation that I would help her because that's what family does. I wrote back. 1 sentence. You made your choices. Live with the consequences. I never heard from her again. Until 3 months ago. I was at a coffee shop near my office, working on my laptop during my lunch break. I looked up to stretch my neck and there she was. Charlotte. Standing in line to order. She hadn't seen me yet. She was with two other women, laughing at something someone had said. She looked good. Healthy. Her hair was different, shorter. She was wearing clothes I didn't recognize, nice ones. She didn't look like someone who was struggling. Then she turned and saw me. Our eyes met across the crowded coffee shop. For a moment, neither of us moved. I saw recognition flicker across her face. Then something else. Calculation maybe. Deciding whether to approach me or pretend she hadn't seen me. She chose the second option. Turned back to her friends and said something that made them laugh. Ordered her coffee without looking in my direction again. Left with her friends without acknowledging my existence. I sat there for a long time after she left, processing how I felt. I'd expected anger. Or hurt. Or something. Instead, I felt nothing. Charlotte was just a person who existed in the world. Someone I used to know. Someone who'd hurt me deeply. But not someone who had power over me anymore. I'd let go. Not through forgiveness. I didn't forgive her. Probably never would. But through indifference. Through building a life so full and rich that her absence didn't leave a hole. I told my therapist about the encounter in our next session. How did it feel? She asked. Empty. Like seeing a stranger. That's growth. That's you no longer giving her emotional real estate in your life. I used to think about her all the time. About what she did. About what I lost. And now? Now I think about what I built. The foundation. The work I do helping other people. Marcus. My life. That's the best revenge, my therapist said. Building a life she can't touch. I'm 35 now. 3 years past the funeral that changed everything. I have a good life. Not the life I expected. Not the life I would have chosen if I could have avoided the pain. But a good life nonetheless. I run the foundation my father's money started. We've helped over 200 families fight back against financial exploitation and elder abuse. We provide legal assistance, support groups, resources for pressing charges. Every person we help feels like a small piece of justice. I'm still with Marcus. We just bought a house together. He proposed last month and I said yes. Marriage still terrifies me. The vulnerability. The trust required. The risk. But Marcus has proven himself over and over. He's exactly who he says he is. Consistent. Honest. Safe. I'm not going to hurt you, he told me when I admitted my fears. I can't promise life won't hurt you. But I can promise I'll be honest with you. Always. That's all I can ask for. I think about my father sometimes. Wonder what he'd think of how everything turned out. Wonder if he'd be proud that I fought back or devastated that I let his daughter go to prison. But I think, in the end, he'd understand. He trusted me to make hard choices. And I did. Even when it cost me. The inheritance money I kept is invested carefully. Growing. Waiting. Marcus and I talk about having kids someday. I'm terrified of that too. Terrified I'll fail them the way my family failed me. Terrified I won't recognize danger when it's right in front of me. But I'm also hopeful. Because I know what betrayal looks like now. I know what red flags are. I know how to set boundaries and enforce consequences. I can teach my children things my father never taught me. That family isn't defined by blood. That love without accountability is just enabling. That sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who hurt you most. And that you can survive it. You can rebuild. You can create something beautiful from the wreckage. I saw Aunt Linda last month. We met for coffee, awkward but trying. How are you? She asked. Good. Really good actually. I heard about the engagement. Marcus seems lovely. He is. She stirred her coffee, not meeting my eyes. Charlotte called me. She's asking for money. Says she can't make rent. Did you give it to her? No. I told her I couldn't help her. She got angry. Said I was choosing you over her. She sees everything as a competition. I know. I wish things had turned out differently. I wish your father could have seen you happy. He did see me happy. He just died before he could see me recover from what Charlotte did. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? I considered the question. Really considered it. No, I said finally. I don't think I will. Forgiveness would require her to acknowledge what she did and show genuine remorse. She's never going to do that. She still thinks she's the victim. Does that bother you? Not forgiving her? It used to. I thought forgiveness was required for healing. But I've learned you can heal without forgiving. You can move on without reconciliation. You can build a new life without including the people who tried to destroy the old one. Aunt Linda nodded slowly. You've become very wise. I've become very careful. There's a difference. We finished our coffee and parted with a hug that was warmer than it had been in years. Progress, maybe. Or just acceptance that some relationships will never be what they were. I'm okay with that now. I've learned that you can grieve people who are still alive. Can mourn relationships that are technically still possible but functionally over. Charlotte and I are sisters by blood. But we're not family. Family requires trust and loyalty and mutual care. We're just two people who happen to share DNA. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for understanding that some betrayals can't be fixed with apologies. Please subscribe to Peace Stories. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and if this story resonated with you. Share it with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to walk away from toxic family members. That blood doesn't obligate you to accept abuse. That you can survive betrayal and build something beautiful. This isn't just about inheritance or money or even family conflict. This is about identity. About refusing to let someone else's lies define who you are. I thought losing the inheritance would be the hardest part. I thought proving my innocence would fix everything. I was wrong on both counts. The hardest part was realizing how easily my family believed the worst about me. How quickly they turned. How little faith they had in the person I'd always been. And proving my innocence didn't fix anything. It just revealed the depth of the damage. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. You can only salvage the pieces worth keeping and build something new. That's what I've done. I'm Morgan Chen. I'm 35 years old. I'm engaged to a good man. I run a foundation that helps people fight back against financial exploitation. I have a life I'm proud of. And I'm done letting my sister's betrayal define my story. This is the truth. All of it. Unfiltered and raw and sometimes ugly. But it's my truth. My story. My life. And no one can take that away from me. Not Charlotte. Not my family. Not anyone. I survived. I rebuilt. I'm thriving. That's how you win against someone who tried to destroy you. Not by getting revenge. Not by making them suffer. But by refusing to let them steal your future along with your past. By building a life so full and complete that their absence doesn't diminish it. By choosing yourself. Every single time. Even when it costs you everything. Especially then. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person who has to live with your choices. Make them count. Choose truth over comfort. Choose justice over peace. Choose yourself over people who don't value you. And when you come out the other side, when you've fought through the grief and the anger and the betrayal, when you've built something new from the ashes of what was destroyed, you'll understand. You didn't lose anything worth keeping. You just cleared space for something better. That's my message. That's what I learned from 3 years of hell. Some losses are actually blessings in disguise. Some endings are really beginnings. And sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is also the thing that sets you free. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's fighting their own battle. You're not alone. You're stronger than you know. And you will survive this. I promise.